All right, we are part two of this demonstration. I just wanted to go ahead and show, as you can see, went ahead and fixed the keywords issue. I'm not sure why it was having issues, but simple little fix there. It was working on my end, so I guess I just didn't update the server or something. Something weird. But anyway, that's finished, so I'm just gonna X out of that. Going into the coding itself. Um, quite a bit of different things going on here. As you can see, we have the different APIs that are situated, doing various calls, each of them tailored more or less to the type of data that is being pulled. Um, so each API has its own script, and we're going to be calling those into each of the different components. Pardon me while I do some quick cleanup here. And then in the main app.js, we got almost 500 lines of code. It's pretty hectic amount, especially considering here all the variables passing. I would definitely say if I did this again, I would simplify this down. Right now, there's kind of some duplication going on that I could have simplified, but when you're pushing objectives, you're just kind of trying to get everything to work first, and if you have time, clean up later. As you can see, I kind of have one main function for checking if I'm adding or removing favorites, one main function checking adding or removing likes, and I pass those down, calling the update of the search results. We've got the search results holding within app.jsx and passing that variable down to main. And we do the same thing with the search, and that's how it keeps the history, quote, quote. So that way when someone changes to a different route and then comes back, it's still the same information that they input previously. So lots of things getting passed down here. We have different functions that are in main, like adding the keywords that's specific to main, because after we conduct the search, we want to take these results and update with the keyword. Also finding the most frequent word. That's kind of how I did that. That way it's like, what is Trump doing right now? And if the article says Trump, more often than some of these other words, then it's going to pick that up as the keyword. Now, obviously, it could pick up some of the other ones. I wasn't really 100% on how to kind of go about that, so I just kind of picked one that made the most sense. Hey, does it show up the most? Cool, we're just going to go with that word. Not a big deal. So you can see from the organization, there's different components. One of the ones that didn't really show up in the front end demonstration was the failed search. There is an aspect there that it'll show a little sad face if a search comes back as failed. So that handles that particular error. We got the header with the header bar and the header bar card, header card, and that all encompasses that scrolling header I was showing before, liked by a server, etc. And we can see here's where we're declaring the type, which module. That's how we're just getting into just kind of one main call here with the index.html, and this gets built with vit, so that way it deploys with with things kind of scaled down, so it's supposed to not bog the server down. So the errors I'm having is even with it scaling down, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, but that's okay. And then with the main API request, this is obviously going off our back end. Some of the stuff very similar to the previous project. Instead of getting the liked or getting all clothing items, it's getting all articles, add like, remove like, add favorite, remove favorite. Definitely some similar formatting, just little changes in variables. And then if we go Oh, and you can see up here too where it's switching from production, or checking the environment to see if it's production or not, and obviously running it that way. There was something here too on the back end where I had to kind of do the same thing with the CORS policy, which was something I didn't do on the previous project, but is something I did on this one, and now it will check and see which environment it is and base the CORS policy on that. So that's kind of helpful. A little more updates when it came to the models. Certain things I had to kind of put as false, which is weird because in the previous one it let me put it true and then have a blank default on it. So I felt that was weird, but it just kept being a hang up, and so I just kind of went lax a little bit on that. The user is still the same. Checking with the schema to make sure that there's valid email password. Still running routes to make certain calls. So like this one showing, okay, slash articles, and then you go into articles and it goes slash articles and then slash articles with likes, slash articles with favorites, making those different requests. Some of them obviously needing the authentication in between. I went ahead and I think there was a validator too, and I just removed that because it didn't apply, and I just didn't want to mess with it. But it's something that I could always bring back in if I feel like it. I mean, it's just checking to see that these are certain fields are there. But part of the problem is I'm calling from third-party API and then having to convert that information, and sometimes it doesn't convert over correctly. So that's where it was kind of being a hiccup. Whereas if a user is putting in the information, we can kind of bug them to put it in more correctly. So that's where I think the previous project we could scrutinize it a little bit more. Whereas since these are API calls, the only thing we can really scrutinize is the user, which from my understanding is still kind of the same. I mean, this is the article one. If we go to the let me go to the routes here. This should still, yeah, see, so validate updated user info. We can go ahead and still run that, and that will function exactly the way we need it to. So still, as you can see, running the Express and CORS and Mongoose. This was kind of cool. We put in a rate limiter here, and this function, you can see it stops them from making more than 100 calls within a 15-minute period. If they do, it's going to pop up with an error, and this will also help keep the server from bugging out, which is really nice. Still running with the error handlers like errors and celebrate checking. This ended up having to get updated on the previous one, and I obviously updated here. This was just saying server error, and it needed to be HTTP error dot server error. So just minor changes. Something that got passed when they passed the project, but yeah, I went ahead and fixed it right here because again, it's like a 5-minute fix. I mean, when we're talking on the grand scheme of things, if you got little 5-minute fixes here and there, I mean, your project's pretty well done at that point, which is nice. So trying to think if there's anything else. I think we're pretty, oh yeah, and then this is just again checking that environment, which the environment has a secret code on the server side. I won't go over that. Server side being built has the Mongo, has gosh, what is that other one? Let me look real quick. I just gotta. It is the Nginx and certbot, and that helps take the URL, convert it over to HTTPS secured, providing additional security. So I think that's it for this video.